Elena Burtseva. Sorry if I mispronounced
that. Burtseva.
Yeah. She is coming to us from, I think you said it was just outside of Moscow?
Yeah, it's Moscow.
Yeah. She is the creator and owner of the project No Hours. She does genealogical courses. She does individual coaching for genealogy. And her specialty, obviously, is Russian genealogy. So I'm going to go ahead and let her get started, and I will reappear for the Q&A.
Thank you very much for introduction, for your words. I will not speak a lot of myself because I already hear a lot of my projects. So actually, I research in Russia, former USSR, and Russian Empire. Actually, when I will talk about Russian in my speech, mainly I will mean all these three periods of our country history. So you should understand that Russia, for me, it's former USSR, Russia Empire, for quick speaking only. Also, you can see my links for my project. It's site, it's Telegram and Instagram. It's main links. You can use it, but of course, mainly my project is for Russian people, so mainly it's on Russian language, but as I know, Google Translator can help a lot or translate sites, for example. Okay, let's start. Just try to. Okay, and I would like to start from main specifics of our research in Russia and for Russian roots. And first of all, of course, its main question and main issue for some foreign researchers, it's Russian language, because a lot of documents and so on are on Russian, and you should read or at least Google translate very well for search and for understand results of search. If we talk about digitized documents, online resources, and so on. But sometimes I will talk about this soon. We can't search by online, so we should search only offline in archives, in libraries, and so on. So it's another different stories. Also, we have several old language forms. I will show it later and you understand what I mean. Also, we have archaic words. For example, we have word, for example, till beginning of 20th century, and then it was changed, and just now we used another word for the same mean. And sometimes for finding, we should know which word was used before to make correct search results. And also we have a lot of documents in handwritten text. So it's another difficulty, as you can see on the screens. So you can see on my screen just now 3 types of previous Russian languages. It's like one language, but different types of words. And from left to right, it's from past to, I guess, 19th century. Right picture, it's about 19th century. After that, in 19th century, we have more easy texts, but they were with some additional words, letters. Then we have just now, for example, on this picture, you can see alphabet before 1918, so before start of 20th century. And you can see that we have some letters. These letters are blue. They were reduced from our language in 1918, and for these letters was created monument. You can see picture, for example, cartoons was created when it was reduced in beginning of 20th century, and these cartoons means that these letters were moved away. And on the picture of text, you can see how it was before removing these letters. So it works with these letters. You can see yat, for example. For reading a lot of documents, you should read at least, it's easiest way, such texts, or maybe it should be like this text. It depends from time of documents you should read. And another example, it's beginning of 20th century. It's church documents. We had metric books which had records of birth, marriages, and death. And you can see example of one list of metric book for records of marriages. And this book was like big album. It's not like books just now, but it's like big album, and you can see that there are a lot of handwritten text which not so easy to read, even me like a nation speaker. So it's a lot of old letters in text and not so good text writing. So it means such text means that wife and husband, she is 22 years old, he is 28 years old, and which marriage they have. He had second marriage, she had also second marriage. Also, there is their names, their father names, and where are they from. So, for example, city or town, and so on. And on another page, there was additional information who was on marriage, like their friends. Also, there are some specific in different periods. So for different periods of our history, we have different archives, different documents, different search strategies. And for example, of periods, this picture is for main three periods. But of course, we have additional sub periods, some changes of documents and so on under each of these big history periods. So first of all, it was Russian Empire, and in 1917 we had a revolution, and after that we had USSR, and then in 1994 we had Russian Federation till now. So it's huge federal political changes. So we had different types of documents. For example, which receive metric books, which used for birth, marriages, deaths. It was only till end of Russian Empire, and maybe some years of start USSR, because of course each changes in country in government should have time to use it for real changes in documents. Next, very interesting thing that we have different documents, different datas, different periods sometimes in different ways of archives. So we have vertical and we have some additional types of archives. And you can see main types which we have. For example, it's federal archives. Mainly they are placed in Moscow or St. Petersburg. It's regional archives. It's for each region, regional for each regional main city. It's municipal, it's district, departmental, or archives of organization, and so on. And next page of our history is no so good. It's poor preservation of some documents for some regions or towns, territories, and so on. It depends on different situation. Mainly, we had a lot of wars on previous century. Also, it's sometimes fire or water or damaged by law or order or something like this. So it's a different situation in our history, but sometimes we had that in some regions we have a very poor situation of documentation for our search, and we should try to find additional documents, not main, but some additionally some little dots of information, and use such variants. Also, we have different types of access to archives. We have some online accesses. It could be, for example, on official site of archives with, for example, free access or access for money. Or we have, I will show you later, some sites where you can see some screens, some digitized documents from our archives, but it's like common sites, some documents from different archives. And some territories or regions archives can have only personal visits offline to the archive by appointment, and you should, for example, if I would like to visit it in April, I should request this time, day, for yesterday, today, and for example tomorrow, and that's all. And next time you should request next visit, for example, for May in the end of April. So it's different situation for different archives and different regions. And as I said, for different archives, we have different rules, conditions, and different types of accesses. And you can see example. It's only example without any real link to archive types. So, for example, some archives, it's read, we can't use any online documents, we should have appointment requested early, and so on. Some archive we have, for example, some documents in online, but at least for full search we should visit offline. And some archives we have with good digitized, with good rules of working with documents, so it's easiest way to find your family history. Also, I had a lecture with person who a lot of time, a lot of years from USSR time, from I guess 1950s years of previous century, works in government federal how would say, like study and rules center for archives, and she talked about our archives from federal point of view, and she talked about a lot of documents which we had in each archives in federal and regional and another types of organizations, but a number of digitized documents is just a drop in the ocean of all these documents which we had. Of course, some of such documents aren't for our genealogy research because it's for organizational, for example, organizational history or something about a resulting of work of organization without any details of employees of this organization, but at least we should understand that we can find a lot of information online, but a lot of information under online, under only on offline stored and visited of archive and organization. Also, we have special laws in Russia. For example, this very specific law, it's law on personal data, and main thing of this law is that for documents which younger than 75 years old, we should have documents with legal confirmation of our kinship with the person who is on this document. I will try to explain maybe easy. So, for example, it's today 2024 and minus 75 years. So, if our documents between 1949 and today, we should have a lot of documents which mean that I, for example, have kinship with my grandma. It's my passport, it's my certificate of birth, it's certificates of birth, marriage, and death of my parents and grandma, if they have that. So for have one document for this period, I should have at least, I don't know, 5 documents to have confirmation that I can see this information, this document. And sometimes it's very hard because sometimes documents was lost and it's hard to create new documents, copy of previous documents. So sometimes it's showstopper for some research results. For example, on this picture, I talk about some requests, for example, for FSB and MVD, it's like police archives and FSB, Federal Bureau, of a lot of documents for our prisoners, for our cases, for people who had some strange situation, maybe, and they have some old documents, some cases for them, but for review these cases, I should had my all these documents about my kinship with the person, and for them, they don't use 75 years. They use this rule for all documents. It means it could be 1920, for example. But if you can receive these documents. It's a lot of information. For example, I received such documents for my grandfather, and he was a prisoner for 1 year because when Soviet Union was created, he didn't want to, how would say, we have collective, how would say, collective works on started from beginning of USSR, and some people don't want to be in this collective work, and for them it was some legal cases, and my grandfather was one of such people, and I saw a lot of information about his family, about his neighbors, about people who said that he is enemy and so on. And I see and read, and then I had copy of such documents, so it's very interesting and of course hard documents for family history. And next main thing, it's three main question of the search. I guess these three main question very important for each search for each country. So it's who, it's name of the person, family name, personal name, father name, names of sister brothers and so on, as such as possible more information. Also it's where was he living, where was he working and so on, because we have a lot of territories, we have a lot of countries, cities, towns, and so on. And if we can't know where our relatives can live, we can't find this information, or it will be very, very hard. For some cases we can try to do this, but it's very hard. And of course it's when, because as I said, we have different periods with different types of documents. So to identify which archive, which documents we should use, we should understand which period it was. For example, it was USSR, or it was, for example, Russian Empire, because, for example, after Russian Empire, where we had records on church books, we had USSR with civil department, and its name's ZAGS. We had different types of records. It's birth, it's marriage, death, diversity, and so on. Okay, next. Next type of hard situation which we have for our research, it's changes in administrative territorial division. So we had a lot of changes based on history changes, based on government decision, and for example, territory of country. And we had, as I said, three main periods till 1917 and revolution. After revolution we had USSR, and then we have Russian Federation. And each of these main history period had his own territorial division. And also for each period, we have yearly and sometimes monthly changes in our territories. So, for example, why it's so important? If village of our grandmother, for example, was between or near border, and border was changed sometimes, she moved to another administrative territorial division point. And for example, if she contains for this territory, for example, archive with documents here. But if, for example, she village on this territory, archive for this territory, for example, here. And you can see that for our country, it's huge territories. So we should understand in which time, where, which territorial organization was for current village to find our documents in archives. Also, we had till start of 20th century, till revolution, we had parish territorial division for church records, for church books, metric books. It's very important situation because sometimes this parish division, it's not sometimes, it's mainly parish territorial division wasn't the same with administrative of civil division. And we should understand civil division, and we should understand parish division till revolution for each our town or village where we should find documents for our ancestors. And also additional, how would say, cartoons from our ancestors is that sometimes they live in one, for example, village, blue village on this picture, and they should go for marriages, for records of birth, for example, for to green village with church, official church for this territory. But sometimes they don't want go to this official church by any reasons, and they go to another church. It could be church in another territory division. So we should understand that if our ancestor live in this town, in these cities or this village, we should find, first of all, of course, on official church territory division. But if we can't find result, we can't find any families or any special records of our, for example, grandmother, we should search this for another church in the region of this village. And if it wasn't digitized, and if it's only handwritten and only offline visit to archive, it could be quite complicated situation, and we should have a lot of time for finding these records in this situation. Next, just a second. Next moment, that we have calendar change in beginning of 20th century again, and it was day when our grandfather fell asleep, and next day he has already 2 weeks later, and it was called old style and new style, and it was moving from Julian calendar to Gregorian calendar, and it was in Soviet Union by government decision. Next very important thing that in Russia, mainly it was in Russian Empire before revolution, we have different situation with surnames. Sometimes in some regions, in some territories, people didn't have their surnames before, for example, revolution, or maybe it was 1920s. So it's hard to find such people, of course, because they have only names in church books and so on, and we should find a lot of brothers, sisters, mother, father, and so on, and try to have a big picture of links, relatives of their family trees, to find and understand that it was our ancestor. It wasn't another person who has the same name. But for another regions, for another territories, we had another situation, and people can have till 5 surnames at the same time. For example, they have father's name, surname, they have nicknames for rocks, for streets, and so on. And when we read, for example, church book, I can see that Ivanov is the same Petrov, is the same Sidorov. It's a good situation if I can have such words, because sometimes one record has for Ivanov and another record is for Petrov. And you should understand that it's two records for the same person with two different surnames. Sometimes it's possible using additional information, but not all of the time, not all of the cases. And next interesting Russian situations that we have different access, as I said, to documents, and these access conditions, rules, and processes change at different levels. So it could be changed on federal level, on regional level, and archive level. Of course, we have vertical of our government, of our law, and federal laws and federal rules mainly used for all territories. Regional are used only on their territories and only if regional laws is the same, not specific from federal. So if federal laws said that you shouldn't pay for document copies, for example, regional laws can't say that you must pay for document copies. And archive level, of course, it's should be used regional and federal laws, and then they can create their own rules if they can. But of course, it's very hard to see all these rules, all these situations, and sometimes on a high, for example, level, they create own rule, and only after some time, some active people said you shouldn't use this rule because federal laws if another rules for this situation, please change it. And in this situation, Hive can change this rule. And just now I would like to show some online resources which can be used for research. Of course, we have different and other resources, but they very different and difficult to say which you should use because I don't know your situation for research. This is common resources. Of course, family search, I guess you know this site, and there are a lot of documents for Russian Federation. I mean, it's mainly Russian Empire and USSR, and mainly Russian Empire, and also it's territory of another countries which were in USSR before 1991. And you can see that on Russian or sometimes on English you can find some documents, but some of documents you should read by your eyes, each page with text. Next site, it's Yandex Archive. Yandex, it's site like Google, only for Russian version, and they have own service with archive. They have some some documents from some archives, and they digitized it. They or used already digitized documents of archives, and it's very I like this site because I can use, for example, surname, and this site try to find it in documents. Of course, sometimes there are mistakes. Some letters, some words this site can't read. But of course, if I have some list of documents, I already can try to find more information if it's good results for my research inquiry. And of course, you can find period, you can find type of documents, you can find special archive, fund, and cases, words or numbers. And next site, it's Genotech. It's like a DNA company for Russia, and they have also archives service with very similar function like Yandex Archive. So they used some digitized archive from Russia, from USSR territories, and you can try to find some information into these documents. Of course, it's also with mistakes, with issues, but you can try to find. And for example, it's example of my grandfather, great-grandfather in Ukraine territories, and I found some results for him. Next example, it's site Память народа. It's site for search results of digitized documents of soldiers, of officers which participated in Second World War. And for example, it's my grandfather. We can see some information about him, his birth year, his place of birth, and some additional information. And you can see we have digitized old document from our archive of World War II, and you can zoom some documents, or you can save on your PC, for example, and play with Photoshop with this picture after that, because you can see that some picture isn't very good for reading because of time, of quality of recording. And next slide. Next site is similar site, but it is for First World War. And actually on this site you can see mainly less information because of less documents was digitized and less documents were saved from that time, but at least you can see some information. For example, where this person is brother of my grandfather, where this person was birth, and which situation was on World War First. So, for example, he has some medical situation and some information about this situation. Next, a very good resource. I love it very much. It's Goscatalog. It's collections of museum documents, photographs, and so on. So different types of our museums. It's federal museums, regional, territory museums can have digitized collection, and they have some plans about digitization of their collections, and they have this online portal to download their photos of collections, and we can try to find by surname or by place name or by town name and so on. But one thing isn't good. Sometimes we can find, for example, photos, but our museum employees can have no information about persons who are on that photos. So, for example, on photos, there are information that it's students from some university, but which course, which year, or which names, surnames of these students we can't have. Okay, next slide is это место. It's old maps of our country, and I would like this site because you can search your town or your village or any dot on a current map on, for example, on Google, and use some name of map and period of this map when it was created. And you can see on this big map dot the same like you used on current map. And you can see that, for example, just now we have village, but some years or centuries ago we hadn't village on this place and so on. And a lot of old maps are for searching for used. Next interesting things, it's online how to find relatives. If you understand that you can have relatives in Russia, how can you find them? Of course, I heard about histories about DNA results and searches, but I'm not professional in this area, so I only have such common information. Also, you can use online tree and links between relatives. For example, it's my heritage, but unfortunately, after some situation of last years, we had more problems for using my heritage, so you can try to find a tree, you can try to find owner of this tree, but I'm not sure that he's using my heritage now. And a very similar site with similar function, it's Russian site, familiar. You can try to find this site, and you can try to find on this site not only family tree, but also you can try to find, for example, surname. And if another user of this site already sent information about such surname on this site, you can see that and maybe contact them. Then, of course, social media. It's Russian social media, it's common social media like Instagram, Telegram, of course, YouTube. Mainly on YouTube, you can see information about villages, cities, some schools, and so on. But some people make own channels for their family, so you can try to search them. Also, it's libraries, and you can try to find information about surnames or about a place, like on this example. And if you use, for example, for this library in Moscow, Leninka, a Russian State Library, and if you use such site and check digitized free access, you can read these books free on your notebook. And for example, libraries like Literacy, it's for Russia, also it's Amazon, for example. Sometimes I can find some books about some families or some places. And for example, it's my book which I created with my followers, with my subscribers of my channel, with our history of our relatives. And for example, some of this history are about persons who changed countries. So some of them lived Russian Empire, for example, and went to USA. So you can try to find some words or stories about such family changes, family histories, and maybe you can find about your ancestors. And of course, it's archive.org, it's internet archive, like we said. So a lot of documents of Russia, Russian Empire. Also, we had, for example, some documents of cases of prisoners and so on, already digitized and could be searched on this site. So it's a lot of information, but like it's for mainly sites, you should try to find it on Russian mainly. And you should remember that mistakes exist everywhere. So sometimes you can find something on the site or read even cases from official organization or a hive, but they can have mistake of, for example, birth date or names of parents and so on. And sometimes you can try to find some information on some sites, but you can't find it. But it doesn't mean that your ancestor, for example, didn't participate in a World War First if his name isn't on this site. So it's sites very useful and very helpful, but they aren't very full. So a lot of information we have in other places. And which help can I have for you? Of course, my project, first of all, for Russian-speaking person, because of start of my project, and for English-speaking, only English-speaking persons, I can have helpful service about coaching. If you would like to try to find yourself independent on Russia archives, I can discuss with you, teach you how and where and what, but you will send quests and so on yourself. But of course, in this situation, you should speak or at least read on Russian, and you should can send requests to archive or FSB and so on. Second option, I can make research for you for your family history in Russia and ex-USSR, Russian Empire territory. And third, already third point, I can give you some quick advices. If you have ancestors in Russia or USSR, Russian Empire, please send me your history, family history, names, territories, history, and so on. Maybe some documents which you have, and I will see these documents and give you a quick overview of situation about research for your case. Of course, on quick model overview of documents which you have and information which you have. You can see these special services for English researchers on this page. And just now, thank you very much for your attention. I guess we haven't got time, but maybe for some questions.
Yeah, we have time for a couple questions. Just as a reminder to everybody, if we don't get to all of your questions, send us an email. I put our email in the chat. It's genealogy@acpl.info. I also put a link to the contact page on Elena's website, so you can contact her directly. I'm going to put that in the chat again. So the first question, where would I find information regarding permission to immigrate to the United States from the area that is now Poland during the third partition?
Mainly it's Poland archives, and actually Poland archives are very digitized. So you can try to find online information, but of course you should try to find information about this episode of family history. But if you have more information of town of birth or marriages and so on, you should use this information to find, for example, a record of birth or marriage in church of this town. But this information should be contained in a special archive of region or on federal archive.
The next person asked, they said that they have an ancestor named Israel Anapolsky, sorry if I mispronounced that, who was born in Shepetovica. I looked it up. It's in modern day Ukraine. And they were born July 3rd, 1887. And they don't know where to start researching his background. Do you have any suggestions?
For Ukraine territories, well, first of all, it's family search, but some funds, it wasn't digitized for search names on family search, but on site which I used on my presentation, Yandex Archive and Genetec Archive, you can try to find by surname of your ancestor, and some Ukraine archives, digital documents could be found on this site, and you can see that, for example, surname like had your ancestor has on this document, and then you should try to read and understand what should be do next step.
Someone had asked, what are the three Russian languages? Cyrillic, and I think they might have meant like written alphabet.
Cyrillic, but it's Ustav, Polu-Ustav, and Skoropis. I don't know how it's translated in English.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there are special English words for that.
I put a link to the Russian languages page from the Family Service Research Wiki, so that should help this person. Okay. So the next question, is it possible to write to the archives for information, and how long does it take to get an answer?
It depends from request. First of all, if you would like to request genealogy research in archive, a lot of archives don't make such service at this moment because they have some employees and they haven't time for this additional job. But some archives has such service. But you can request, for example, some research on some special type of records. For example, you request to search record of birth of your grandmother, and you should know when, where, and name, of course. At least, for example, for time, it could be period, for example, 5 years. And for such a type of request, archives answer. And for Russian law, it could be about 1 or 2 months. But it's not free mainly, so it have some payment. But you can't calculate this payment before answer from archives, because each archive has own prices with different types of job titles, and they calculate some of job titles for this search. For example, it's hard search or very old documents and so on. And we have different prices, but actually, I guess for different of our USD and Russian rubles, I guess for American people, it will not very high price, because we have a different situation in our currency.
When searching using a surname, do I need to use the Cyrillic alphabet?
Actually, I used for search on internet, I used only current our alphabet, Russian current version, and all other version you can try to find, but you can't use a special typos, maybe only copy paste from some site of some specific letter which was used before. So we haven't got special functions for such, and it's hard to find sometimes, because, for example, I search word, but search results haven't got any results, and I see by my eyes on the picture, and I see this word, but they have, for example, additional old letter or something additional characters on this word, and search can't find it. So it's only human eyes.
Yeah, great. I see someone put some resources in the chat for doing exactly that. So thank you. I love when you guys do that.
Thank you very much.
Final question. Is it generally fair to say that prior to 1917, birth, marriage, and death records would be in the church books, and after the revolution, all those records would be civil, right?
Yes, mainly till 1917, but on some regions it could be in church books till, for example, 1920 or 1922. So it depends from region, from situation. And just now, for actually, I didn't try such research, such request for people from different countries, but for Russian people, we can go to ZAGs or special departments and ask certificates or documents about birth, marriage, and deaths for all period of USSR and Russia. And they have digitized online internal base, and they used this base to find, for example, a record of 1945, and they could use this base, but sometimes base has mistakes, or some records can't be found on this base, and we should request documents from offline books from regions. But of course, this base made our life easy.
So thank you again, and thank all of you for joining us. This is such a great presentation. Russian research is complicated, as somebody pointed out in the chat. But everyone had such an awesome time, and yeah, thank you again.
Thank you very much. You can go to my site and send me any messages on English, and we can try to find or understand how to find your ancestors. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your day. I put the link to Elena's website in the chat several times, but if you need to email us for any reason, our email is genealogy@acpl.info. And just as another reminder, I am going to send out the handout to everybody as soon as we get off of Zoom. So I'm going to work on that. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.